Give me 17 minutes and I will show you how you can get your dream SAT score. And you can do it using these 7 strategies to improve your SAT score by 50, 80, or even 100 plus points. Now, the journey to getting your dream SAT score starts from the reading and writing section. And most students fail because of how they answer text completion questions. And if you don't know how to spot the signals in these passages, you will pick the wrong answer even when the text gives you all the clues you need. So let's see an example question here. Okay, pause here. We've got mixed findings. That is a signal word. It means some studies found one thing and others found the opposite. So let's see the examples after the colon. Lynn's team found no difference. Ramirez and Velasco's team found a decline. And notice the word whereas, and that's a contrast word here, showing one group saw nothing and the other saw a big drop. Now comes Deschmuch and Rogers. There is an important detail here. They predicted a reduction in insects abundance. That's their hypothesis, their guess. Okay, the results are roughly equal numbers. So that's not a drop, and this goes against their prediction. Now we need the answer choice that best completes the conclusion. Choice A. The hypothesis regarding the negative influence of artificial lighting on insect abundance was not supported, and the results aligned with the findings of Lin and colleagues. Well, their hypothesis wasn't supported because they expected a drop, but found equal numbers. And this perfectly matches Lin's earlier results of no difference, and this fits exactly. Choice B. Although their findings supported the conclusion of Ramirez and Velasco, it doesn't necessarily mean that artificial light alters insect activity patterns. Ramirez and Velasco found a decline, but these guys found no difference, opposite results. So that's wrong. Choice C. Differences in habitat type and survey method may explain why their findings diverged from those of Ramirez and Velasco. Well, this choice is tempting, but notice the question asks what can be concluded. And this answer is speculation, it's not a conclusion, so not it. Choice D. Rather than decreasing insect abundance, as they had hypothesized, artificial light may actually encourage insects to gather in illuminated areas. So that's wrong again. Their data showed equal numbers, not more in lighted areas. So this is unsupported detail. So the best choice here is choice A. You know what's wild? Most students don't get a low SAT math score because they're dumb, but because they have no clue what they're bad at. They solve hundreds of random, easy questions and maybe even feel productive. And that's exactly why their SAT scores stay stuck. And that's where these 13 full-length realistic SAT math practice tests come in. And those who use them improve their SAT math scores from 680 to 740, from 660 to 780, from 700 to 760. And they all use these exact 13 tests. Every test feels exactly like the real SAT, but the real power? The weakness analysis system. After every test, it breaks down your performance, not just by topic, but by skill. So go to the description of this video, click the first link to get access to the 13 SAT math practice tests and start your weakness analysis system. And if just one of these tests helps you find 2 weak spots, that's already 20 to 40 extra points right there. Even if you're already good at math, these practice tests help you a lot, because at that level, it's not about learning new formulas, but it's about finding those tiny mistakes that keep you stuck below 780. And these tests show you the small gaps that normal prep books or YouTube videos never catch. The exact things that separate a 700 from an 800. And here's the best part. The first test is completely free. Sign up, take the test, and get your personalized weakness analysis report for free. So click the first link in the description, start your free test, and begin boosting your SAT math score today. Let's turn our focus to the SAT math question. This SAT question seems simple, but it's designed to trick you. They say Emma increased her speed by 120% and Leo increased his by 960%. Then they ask how much percent more distance Leo covered compared to Emma. Here's what most students do wrong. They subtract the percent. 960% minus 120%, and that equals 840%. And they think that's the answer. But that's not how percent change works. You can't just subtract the increased percentages and expect that to give you how much more one is compared to the other. Percent increase is multiplication, not subtraction. Because they want you to compare final values, not the percent gains themselves. And I'm going to show you the fastest way of solving this SAT question. So firstly, you should use a made-up starting value. Since both runners start at the same speed, you can pick any number. The easiest one is 100. So let's solve it step by step. So number one, Emma increases her speed by 120%. So the starting value is 100%. Final value equals 100 plus 120% of 100, which equals 100 plus 120, and that equals 220. Number two, Leo increases his speed by 960%. So the starting value is 100. The final value is 100 plus 960% of 100. So that would be 100 plus 960. That equals 1060. Now the question becomes, how much more is 1060 compared to 220 in percent terms? So let's use the formula for percent increases. New minus original divided by original multiplied by 100. So 1060 minus 220 divided by 220 multiplied by 100. That's going to equal to 840 divided by 220 multiplied by 100, and that's going to equal to 381.8%. So the final answer is 382. Now let's move on to the next SAT reading question. So the question states, which choice best describes the overall structure of the text? So you're being asked about the structure, aka how the paragraph is built. And you can think of it as asking, what's the blueprints of this little argument? Not what it's about, but how the author lays it out. So now let's read the passage slowly and come up with a prediction. So here's our passage. Streaming series that are part of larger universes are often criticized for being formulaic. Take, for instance, The Mandalorian 2019, which is part of the Star Wars expanded universe. It is true that this series resembles earlier Star Wars content, but just because a series has familiar elements doesn't mean it can also be innovative. Critics generally agree that The Mandalorian isn't the most groundbreaking series, but streaming series are rarely as repetitive as some people claim, and some universe-based series like Loki 2021 are wonderfully creative. So now let's break this passage down. So firstly, people say that shows in a big universe like Star Wars or some other ones are repetitive, and they give an example of that, which is Mandalorian, and yeah, it kind of looks like some other Star Wars stuff. And there is a big but moments. Familiar doesn't mean boring or bad. Critics admit it's not totally new, but also not repetitive or trash. So in short sentences, we can say that these shows are kind of same, and then there is a contrast that says, hey, it's not always same. Some of them are cool and fresh. So now let's create a prediction. So the author starts by showing a common criticism and then says, not entirely fair. And then gives some counterpoints, even examples of shows that are creative. So if you're expecting something like, here we have a complaint, but it's not that simple. Some shows are actually creative. So that's what I'm expecting, which is criticism versus rebuttal structure. Now, we should go through the answer choices. Choice A, The text summarizes the plot of a streaming series, then explains how the plot is continued in a later series in that universe. Well, we don't really have plot summary here. We didn't just get any story details. There's no timeline. There's just commentary on whether the shows feel repetitive or not. So we can eliminate this choice. Choice B, the text explains why some people enjoyed a particular streaming series, then considers why other people disliked it. Well, this kind of sounds like a review battle. Some people love it, but the author didn't really talk about why people liked. They only said critics agree. It's not super new and still creative. So we can cross this answer choice. Choice C. The text describes audiences' reactions to a series that is part of a larger universe, then presents some critics' reactions to that series. Well, this one sounds really close. But make sure to be careful here because the beginning of the text talks about a general criticism from critics, not necessarily audience reactions to The Mandalorian. And then we get critics' opinions, yes, but first part wasn't about audience feelings. It was more about general stereotypes, so it's kind of tempting and it's not accurate enough. And now let's read the choice D. The text discusses a common criticism of universe-based series, then argues that the criticism is mostly undeserved. Yes, this is exactly what we predicted. First, people say these shows are formulaic, and which is a criticism. Then there's a sentence that says, but wait, Mandalorian might be familiar but still innovative. And then gives an example of Loki. Loki is even super creative, so it's a rebuttal. So the correct answer choice here is D. And if you're interested in getting your dream SAT score as fast as possible, make sure to watch this video next where I break down exactly how you can do it.